All right, guys, welcome to another edition of the Culture and People Cast. Today we have Mike Sorelli on. Mike, in a few sentences, would you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Retired Navy SEAL by way of the Bay Area. Retired after 20 years, and now I run an executive search and talent consulting firm called EF Overwatch, and I'm the co-author of the book, The Talent War: How Special Operations and Great Organizations Win on Talent.
Oh my gosh. And I know that George Randall, your co-author and partner, was on the show. So thanks for being here too. And thanks for all you're doing, of course, obviously in your service, but since then in applying it to the real world.
Thank you.
I shouldn't say real world because your world was real. The world outside
They're all real. No, it's quite all right.
Yes. Okay. So your work obviously influences culture and people in the world. Yes, but obviously in the workplace. What's the best thing about this work for you?
You know what? The one goal in life is to have as much impact as possible. And the greatest impact is, the greatest impact on people is not currency. It's the influence you have on their lives. I just want to help people live better, more productive lives one day at a time, and less pain. We talked about it before we hit record here. If I can help somebody have a more fulfilling, less painful life, whether that's depression or physical pain, that's my whole goal. Whole goal.
Yeah. And isn't it so delightful to hear about this movement from, sort of employers and companies thinking about wellness as like some healthcare offering versus thinking about whole human wellness at work and incorporating it into everything they do, right? It's not just some program, it's how we do our work here.
The whole person concept,
Yeah.
Fit body and a fit mind. And that also includes the spiritual piece as well.
Agreed. Yeah. And that wellness is so connected to engagement. And I often hear from leaders, Mike, that engagement is a challenge. What are your thoughts?
It is, but it is a reflection of your leadership. Your job is not only to impact people, it's to motivate people. And take it during COVID as a perfect example. When everyone is fearful, when there's so much information out there, the environment's, described by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. You as a leader remain calm, motivate your people moving in a common direction, and keep them together as a team, no matter how hard the times get. And you will have people that are engaged and will be extremely thankful for the style of leadership that you showed, which leadership should always be servant leadership, which means to be selfless.
Yeah. Can I ask you about that, keeping them calm? Because here's one thing I usually talk about, Mike, is that, as a leader, I want you to not be too Pollyanna. I want you to acknowledge when you're stressed or when crap hits the fan or when you don't know the answers. How do you balance that? Like, especially during a time like this where there's so much volatility and unknown, how do we keep our team calm, but also be honest and transparent?
So this is just be authentic. Yeah. If you're hurting, Anna, the one thing I hate is tough guys. And people often are like, well, you're a Navy SEAL, you're a tough guy. I'm like, trust me, I've seen my share of tough guys. And believe it or not, the guys who always act tough on the battlefield were usually the biggest cowards. That when the rounds were flying, they wouldn't move from their position. The men that were most lethal on the battlefield were also the most in tune with their feelings. And they were the first one to be like, hey, and it wasn't a hit on their manliness whatsoever to be like, hey, that last mission, I saw a child hurt and it's really affecting me. I need some help here, guys. Yeah. The biggest men, the strongest men I know are the ones that are willing to say, hey, something's not right. I'm off. I need help. Additionally, as a leader, if you don't have the answers, great. That's the point. You're not supposed to have all the answers. You're never the smartest man or woman in the room. Don't try to be. Come to your team and say, hey, guys, here's the situation. Here's the information I have. By the way, I have no freaking clue on what to do here. What do you guys think? That's it. And they will respect you for that. And trust me, if you have a team of 5, 10, 20, they will solve together. Your little brain trust there. They will solve any problem faster and better than you can on your own. So utilize them to your advantage.
Right. And what a diverse answer to the problem you will get by involving everybody and more ownership, right? They're going to put more work into it because they put the sweat into the idea. Yeah.
Exactly. Let them solve it at their level. They'll take ownership over it. Exactly.
Yes. Well, Mike, we've already given so much tactical advice, but I always like to say, is there anything else that you would advise, if there's a leader or even a founder or even an employee of a company that says, I want to improve our people practices. I want to advance our culture, maybe even something from the book that you would pull from. What's something they could put into practice tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to give them the hardest thing to do. If you say your culture is defined by integrity and you do something different, that's not your culture then. So as a leader, the best tactical advice I can give you, which is the hardest thing to execute in a day in and day out basis, is set the example.
Mm.
Set the example, because your people are watching. And if you set the example, you are very intentional about forming your culture and then solidifying it through your day-to-day behaviors. Starts with and ends with setting the example.
Right. And listen, I define culture as the outcome of our daily habits and behaviors. So it starts at the top, and that's at all levels, right? I mean, because we could have the top acting one way and the bottom acting another, right? In terms of hierarchy, I'm top and bottom, but we really need it at all levels. And the conglomeration, the addition of all of that together is, I think, what I'm going for, is the outcome. Right. And so you have to live it out. You've got to live it out. If you say you're a culture of integrity, or that's one of your core values, you've got to demonstrate it. Yes. Awesome advice. So let's do some quick shout outs. Is there anyone else in the ring doing really great work who you just want to acknowledge, or maybe even as a potential guest?
I'm always the weak link on my teams, but I'm okay saying that because at least I'm on teams that win and are awesome. I'm surrounded by people that are like elevating my game.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to the entire EF Overwatch team, especially our young subordinate leaders who are making George and I and Carly and the senior leaders, like, they're giving us a run for the money. Also, the Talent War group, which is a group of about 45 former military, now business leaders who are just the most humble people. They're out there putting leadership content, which is impacting people. We're seeing the results. And I'm just humbled to be associated with these mugs, man. Awesome.
That's so great. I hadn't started to follow that talent work group, so I'll have to check that out. Is that something that you are on social media with?
The Talent War group is predominantly on LinkedIn. We're on all the other social media. We're doing LinkedIn live sessions. We're about to kick off 4 different podcast series that are going to be pre-recorded. Okay. But the whole thing with this group, a lot of them are special operations leaders. Dude, we feel like we're stewards of our leadership, and like we don't want anything in return. We just want to put this content out there because we've got a lot of scars. We've made a lot of mistakes leading organizations at a very high level. If we can help some small to mid-sized business leaders, victory.
Pay it forward. Oh, I love that. I'm going to definitely link to that. I'll make sure that we put that in the show notes. So that's sort of a resource, but any other resources that are favorites of yours that have advanced your thinking related to people and culture?
Yes, I do. There's countless books. Again, before we hit record here, Tribe by Sebastian Junger. I think this is so relevant right now at a time where Americans are just pulling apart and trying to find things that differentiate us rather than things that bring us together. But the book takes a look at tribal culture within the Native Americans and how there's this communal sense of homecoming and belonging. We need to get back to that. Sebastian Junger is an amazing author. The only other resource is coming out in January by a SEAL, a brother in arms of mine named Rich Divini. The book is called The Attributes, the 25 hidden drivers to optimal performance. He looked at these 25 attributes, which most high-performing people have to some degree, regardless of domain. It is so well written. And I think Simon Sinek is doing the forward for him. Okay. He's part of the Talent War group. I'm looking forward for this. Well, actually, I got an advanced copy that I read, but I'm looking forward to him launching it. And I love when the people around me are highly successful, more successful than me.
Right. Yeah. And if that's coming out in late January, it's probably already on Amazon that we can link to in the show notes, don't you think?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We'll do that. Perfect. Yeah, we'll do that for sure. Yes. Well, this has been a delightful conversation. It definitely gave me some food for thought in terms of living out our leadership. It has been a challenge for me personally over the past 2 years when I've had my own personal issues, health issues in 2019. COVID happened in 2020. I recommitted to my team early January, I'm like, look, guys, we've had a rough patch, which made our culture go this way. Let's talk about where we want that to go and what behaviors we need to do that. So this has been really good for me personally too.
Well, Anna, I'm thrilled to hear that. I'm glad you're past the health issues. I know the business is going to rebound. You're going to lead.
Yeah.
Hey, every leader, regardless of experience, continues to struggle with leadership. This ain't a game that you can ever figure out. The second you say, I've got this thing leadership figured out, you should, you're going to get humbled.
Totally. Well, Mike, thank you for being a guest today. And thank you for all you do for culture and people.
Thank you, ma'am.